welcome to EPN. My name is Victor Lucas, and we bring you the latest in everything cool every single day, except for last week because we were off and we had a fantastic little break right there. Nice vacation. I went to Disneyland because that's what you do with my family, and we had a great time there. We were at Legoland, and I think Blake went to the San Diego Zoo. So California, we represented. We were all over that place, and it was awesome. I had a great time at Judges Week as well. We've got some interviews and things like that we're going to be showing you very soon, leading up to E3. E3 is coming like a freight train, and it's going to be so exciting. But we've got some exciting stuff in this episode to get to, starting with your rundown, which is dedicated to Matt Figuera, who is a brand new sponsor, and also to Atari co-founder Ted Dabney, who died over the weekend. Rest in peace, Ted. Thank you and Nolan Bushnell for all that you have done for this industry and for bringing video games to life for us. But let's get started with your rundown. It looks like Disney has had their first big blunder with the Star Wars franchise. Solo had a disappointing opening weekend, earning just $103 million domestically and $68 million internationally, well below Disney's expectations. Solo, like other Star Wars films, did particularly bad in China, where it opened in third place, which is a big problem considering that China will soon be the world's biggest film market. All this means that Solo, with a budget estimated to be more than $300 million because they had to do all of that reshooting, probably won't turn a profit in theaters, effectively making it a box office bomb. Now, Johnny Millennium and I saw Solo last week, and our review is up on Film Fury, and we both liked it. We didn't love it. We both thought that there was some good work in there. Alden Ehrenreich actually did a pretty decent job sort of handling the mantle of of Han Solo, which was owned by Harrison Ford. I really felt, though, that it was just all too soon. Like, they worked too hard to put this movie into production too quickly after just introducing us to the new trilogy and bringing back, Harrison Ford and all the other the classic characters. And it just felt like, why would you try to dampen all that with a young Han Solo when Harrison Ford was a young Han Solo? The age difference just doesn't make a lot of sense. And then when they fired Chris Miller and Phil Lord and replaced them with Ron Howard, it's like, well, take your time, do this right. And Ron Howard did a good job sort of racing to get this thing done, but yes, too soon. And even pushing this back to Christmas time, I think would have made a world of difference for the film. The movie isn't terrible. There is some fun stuff in there. There are some good surprises, good performances, and I want to talk a little bit about a couple of fun little spoilers. One of them that I thought was really cool, which isn't a huge spoiler. So if you haven't seen this, just put this on mute here for a second. We're going to get back to your regular rundown right away. But if I thought the Terrace Cassie or Terrace Kasai, however Emilia Clarke said it as Kira. She mentions that she had trained with Terrace Kasai. Now, anybody that's played video games for a long time remembers Masters of Terrace Kasai or Terrace Cassie or however they pronounce it, the old Star Wars fighting game, which was terrible, but it's just hilarious that they kind of threw that little homage there. I thought that was all right. The idea that the AI from L3 is embedded into the Millennium Falcon is kind of cool because C-3PO has a conversation in The Empire Strikes Back about the dialect that the ship has. And I thought that was kind of interesting. I'd learned that over the weekend as well. But the big reveal, obviously, and this is major spoiler if you don't want to know anything about what happened in Solo, is obviously the connection to the Clone Wars and to Star Wars Rebels and the reemergence of Darth Maul, voiced by Sam Witwer, who was on EP Live not too long ago, and portrayed by Ray Park again, which was really cool. I liked that idea and that reveal and that bringing back that character, because Darth Maul is like Boba Fett, who we now know is coming up next in a standalone. Very cool concept. But it was kind of cheesily handled. He actually, they've got this hologram type thing, and then for whatever reason he has to stand up and turn on his lightsaber and show off his robotic legs, which is all explained in the animated shows. And I get that they're connecting all the threads and all that stuff, and then we see that Kira's connected with Darth Maul, and I thought, okay, that's kind of interesting, but it was a little like a fan film, the way they put all that together. Still, interesting. We shall see. Now, I'm out of spoiler territory. The box office numbers not being as big as they were expected to be, or Disney hoped that they would be, I think is going to have some pretty big ramifications for Star Wars going forward. I do expect that this is going to be a huge movie on home video, because everybody that didn't show up for the flick in the theaters is going to be very curious by the time this hits Blu-rays and stuff like that. But we now know that we're going to get James Mangold directed Boba Fett film. I fully expect that we're going to see an Obi-Wan movie, and perhaps we're going to see that character that appears in Solo pop into the Obi-Wan movie. I'm excited for those, but I don't know if we're going to see too much from this cast again, because I don't know if Disney's going to want to associate itself with this thing. I mean, who knows? Maybe the legs will be long on this, and maybe the home video will turn this into a modest hit at the end of the day. But it is kind of shocking. And, I got to tell you, to be honest, when I was at Disneyland and I was looking at all the Solo merchandise and the Solo marketing at Disneyland, it felt a little tepid. It felt a little, non-committal. Like Disney kind of knew that this was not going to be the big block. I mean, you still saw Harrison Ford everywhere and Alden Ehrenreich in a couple of little spots. It wasn't like, and that's the problem, right? Like, you come out with a Han Solo movie, it should just dominate and be all over the place, and we should know this guy and know this new character and know this new actor, and it's like they were afraid to step on Harrison Ford's toes, and also the fans of Harrison Ford's toes, and that's just the wrong way to kind of come out with your brand new Han Solo picture, So it's definitely a disappointment, but the movie wasn't devoid of fun. There was actually some pretty interesting elements in there. Watch our review, but I think Star Wars would be well served by, the Boba Fett thing sounds interesting. They're going to turn this character that was very much squandered in the movies into something bigger and better. Presumably there isn't too much cold feet, but I am excited for when we sort of venture off the beaten path and get to know characters that we don't have any association with. And some of those moments and some of those characters that were introduced in Solo actually were interesting and could have been embellished to be even better. And we saw that with Rogue One as well, that there's lots of opportunity out there. It's going to be tricky. I think Disney should be working closely with Marvel and what they're doing with the Star Wars comic books, and turn some of those stories into shows and potentially movies as well, because I think they're doing some fantastic work with the comic books. And the one thing that I did say in my Solo review is that this felt like a TV show, so maybe that's kind of a direction. Maybe they're going to turn Alden Ehrenreich's version of what he's done into a show, which wouldn't be a bad idea. It wouldn't be, maybe that's what Favreau and everybody's got planned, is to sort of take these characters and just let them run in I don't know. We'll see what happens, but it is interesting, Like, the thing that Marvel's got going for it is that they already have all of these built-in massive legacies and stories and things like that. They can easily, well, not easily, but they can flip them and convert them and adapt them into feature films from all of this source. And Star Wars is really, they took it away from George and they're just making it up as they go, and it's not the same, It's just not the same, and there's so much expectation. Anyways, we're gonna see what happens there, but very interesting times to be a Star Wars fan. Electronic Arts and developer DICE have learned their lesson, speaking of Star Wars, from their last Star Wars blunder. Following the big reveal event for Battlefield 5 late last week, EA and DICE have confirmed that the new game will not have any loot boxes or a premium pass. This means every player will have access to the same maps and modes, and more importantly, it means that the game will avoid the loot box controversy that plagued the last DICE game, Star Wars Battlefront 2. Battlefield 5 will still have a deluxe edition that includes extra in-game content like special assignments and 20 weekly customization items, but it sounds like there won't be any pay-to-win content. It deploys October 19th, and that is absolutely the right lesson to learn from Battlefront 2. I think we were all correct in being very vocal about this stuff with EA. EA can't just slap in the stuff that works for FIFA Ultimate Team into every single product that they put out there. It's not like we all want to collect cards for everything. I still remember how disappointing Need for Speed was. I think there is a model where people will accept a little bit of mystery around what they're paying for. But when you're talking about, so many years of a shooter type of experience where you pay one price and you get the whole thing, and then you just start taking things back and selling things back in kind of sneaky ways, of course you're going to piss people off. I don't think that this Loot Crate story is finished or over. I think that it was such a huge cash cow and such an important part of the business for a lot of different companies at a lot of different stages. They need to kind of work through this, and the last thing that all of these publishers, including EA, should be doing is alienating their audiences or pissing them off or creating bad publicity or making their partners like the Disney Lucasfilm folks angry at perception around their brands. It's too fragile, and we saw the effects of it. Battlefront 2 lost millions and millions of dollars because of this. So I think bravo EA, let's stay on this tack, and I hope that they bring up a lot of discussion around this very subject with their E3 presentations. And we hear kind of a new approach to all of this stuff because the developers have built us good games, and it's tragic that Battlefront 2, which was a great game, just got completely smashed under the bus of this awful news around the title, which was justified. The anger was justified. But those developers built us something really, really special. Couple that with the backlash on the Last Jedi, and now the disappointment on Solo. Man, it's been a heartbreaking bunch of months to be in love with Star Wars. There's been a lot of things to kind of keep us away, and hopefully the tide turns on all of that stuff. And also Amy Hennig's game getting canceled as well. Crazy. Who would have thought, right? You'd think you have the keys to the kingdom with that Star Wars brand, and everything is just going to be gravy and perfect, and it can still mess up and be very messy and piss a lot of people off along the way. Anyways, moving over to streaming giant Netflix, it's now the most valuable media company in the world. The price of Netflix shares overtook Disney for the first time on Thursday afternoon, making Netflix the most valuable media company by market capitalization. The two have fluctuated back and forth since then, but if Netflix continues to grow, they could eclipse Disney permanently. Then again, the market could turn and Disney would emerge once again as the front runner, so we'll have to wait and see. Either way, this is evidence of the popularity of streaming versus other forms of entertainment. That's why Disney is creating their own streaming service to rival Netflix, due out online next year. Do I think Netflix is going to continue to grow? Yeah, they have no choice, right? They're a public company, and they have shareholders that need them to grow, and the way that they're growing is very much the way that a company like Electronic Arts grew, is tying up brands and properties and exclusive intellectual property that you can only access through their services. And that's what Netflix has been very, very good at. I think what they're going to find themselves in, though, is a very confrontational, competitive environment very soon, where all of the players are going to start to have their own streaming services. And Disney, especially with something like this Fox deal, is trying to have as much market share around big brand IP as they possibly can, and they're also physicalizing it in terms of merchandise and theme parks and things like that, which Netflix currently doesn't do. And the thing that may, apart from this heavy competitive kind of landscape that's about to happen, Netflix hasn't faced what's about to happen in its history yet. Nothing has worked as aggressively as what Disney is proposing, and then Warner Brothers has their DC online, their DC entertainment portal as well. CBS All Access has been doing all right. Amazon, we're gonna have an Amazon story after this. They're all coming. They're all gunning for Netflix. So, and we've seen that Netflix doesn't have like this standard quality bar that is like they're all great. They have a lot of this, just like any media company. And the thing that Netflix has had to do is they've had to partner with a lot of external production companies that own their own stakes or their own properties that they license to Netflix. So Netflix doesn't in fact own a lot of that content. They own some, but they don't own all of it. And those companies can then choose to sell in lots of other different ways. And if companies like Disney or Warner Brothers or CBS or whatever other streaming services offer competitive gains or benefits that are. We're going to start to see a lot of these shows and movies elsewhere. That could really hurt Netflix's bottom line as well. I think it would be a huge blow if Netflix suddenly lost all of their Marvel shows. That hasn't been said. Nobody said that that's happening. It's been hinted at that big changes like that could happen. But a lot of the Marvel Netflix shows feel a little bit more mature oriented than what Disney is proposing with their streaming service. So they're a good fit for Netflix. But that would be a huge setback, right? And then if all the CW shows that are on Netflix suddenly aren't there because they're going to be on the DC portal from Warner Brothers, that's a big setback for Netflix as well. But Netflix did buy Mark Millar's company, and they're investing in their own sort of comic book properties and superhero types of content as well. Almost like they got their own sort of embedded publishing house that they're converting into television programming. Going to be very interesting. I don't know if Netflix can sort of handle all of the challenge from every corner. The thing that Disney and all of these other older media houses have is this really ingrained licensing history and lots of connections and getting their products out to retail and toys and beach towels and all of these other things. Netflix is still kind of learning all of that, I think they're on top now, but a lot of it is just because they came out first with really cool technology. We'll see who's gonna be there in the long run with all of this stuff. I think Netflix personally is kind of ripe for acquisition by one of these media players. Could be Apple, could be Amazon, could be Disney, but we'll see what happens. This is going to get nuts. And now another big streaming company has stepped in to save The Expanse. Yay! Amazon has officially picked up the show for a 4th season. The Expanse was canceled by its original network Sci-Fi earlier this month, causing a huge social media campaign to get it picked up by a different network or streaming service. And apparently Amazon was paying attention. Apparently Jeff Bezos himself announced that they were saving the show, which is really cool. Science fiction shows like The Expanse are usually very popular with streaming audiences, while on traditional television it's the opposite and they struggle to find viewers. That's because people that love smart shows like The Expanse are busy people and they like to watch their shows on their own damn time. This means you can expect future science fiction shows to be made exclusively for streaming platforms. No premiere window yet for the 4th season of The Expanse. Excellent show. It is very dense. It is very intelligent. It takes space travel kind of seriously and the effects of space travel on the human body kind of seriously. There's lots of great technology that all kind of makes sense. There's a lot of gray area between the conflicts on here. There's some noir type stuff. There's some Blade Runner type stuff. There's some Battlestar type kind of vibes in this thing. Some creepy interstellar alien grotesque stuff in here as well. It delivers, man. There's a lot in these seasons, and I'm very excited for more. And, hats off to the producers and the people involved. I think this is all produced in Toronto as well, so I know a lot of Canadians are employed by The Expanse. So congrats to everybody that gets to make more of it. It is a great show. I recommend that you watch it. And thank you, Amazon, for saving it.